Hi guys, apologies. The first time I went live, there was some sound issues that someone let me know about. So thanks for that. Um, Hello everyone. How are you? I hope you're well and surviving January. This is a really horrible month. Uh, I really hate. I don't like January at the best of times. I know that lots of you are accountants in the UK who are going, yeah. It's horrible. I'm totally with you there, but it's dark. It's the downer after Christmas, and even worse with everything that's going on in the world. But I refuse to be negative. Maybe not last week. Last week I gave myself some time. This week I am going to be positive. And funnily enough, I was doing some strengths exercises this week in my coaching. And I did it myself on the Strengths Finder, and it tells you quite clearly what your strengths are. And the first one on my list was optimistic. So there you go. So I am all about the optimism. Today, I want to talk to you about failure. Yep, about failing, actively, quickly failing in your role and how it can actually lead you to great success. And not just great success, of course, just in speaking and just in presenting or your own level of presence, but actually in a lot of the things you do. How does that feel when I say that? Going to fail. We can have such a big relationship with the idea of failure and how we approach tasks and decisions and conversations and presentations with that fear that we're going to fail. And a lot of the time we stop ourselves from going and having a go. Because if we think we are going to fail, then we won't do it. Does that sound like you? Does that go into your mindset? Now, there are a few reasons for this. So, as an accountant or working in finance, you have been trained to avoid failure. In fact, it doesn't sit on the radar because there is either yes or no, black or white, failure or succeeding. It's a binary process, the learning and the training that goes with accountancy and with finance management. There are grand and great consequences if you get things wrong. And of course, the aim of the game is to very much get things right. And it's part of the ethics. So it's very much firmly bound into what you do as a professional. And being a professional, your job is to get things right and to know what is the right side of the law, what is the right for the business that you work in. That is literally what you're all about. And not only that, it isn't just about how you're trained, but it's part of your person and your personality. Now, as a speaking coach for finance professionals and for accountants, I of course work with very similar personalities. I do DISC personality profiles with my program clients. And it's always interesting because I get this pretty much the same profile, of course. So with DISC, you have 4 traits. So it's not your actual personality. Personally, I don't think it's great to label because I do believe and see that people change and can change. So it's about being able to go in and understand your personality. Sorry, I'm getting off track. But what I mean is, so DISC has 4 levels, D, I, S, and C. And C is conscientious. C is being analytical and precise and liking a process and knowing what to do. And that is what happens when you are when you're in finance. Usually you will have an element of that because you work with numbers, and being numerical and also data-led or just data-led, you are going to be somewhat on the scale of analytical and precision-based. When you are precision based, when you have that in your personality, it means that also one of the key personality traits is that you're a perfectionist. And as a perfectionist, you want to get things not just right, but brilliantly right. Doing a great job is so important to what you do and who you are fundamentally. It's a deep part of values, and that's why I think values isn't just about your branding or personal branding. Values is something that sits in you psychologically. So to understand that, and again, if you look at the Waves program that I do, Waves is the V is values, and the reason why I put that there is because it's so important to how you make decisions, to how you relate to other people. And when you have a problem in your communication, usually it's because something is going against your values. So you have to understand that, and then you can move forward from there. Failing is a big part of that. So it doesn't sit well with the finance in that finance realm. If it does, those are the people usually you end up thinking, are they really? Did they do that bit in ethics? We've all got those people that we think about, but doing a good job is really important to you and what you do. So failure feels alien, feels like something you've actively avoided your whole life. So the concept of failing is very much something you stand away from. But this is why it's massively important. Now I'm going to go through a couple of examples here. In my household, right, I live with two boys, one older, one younger, husband and son. So racing, motor cars, very much on the agenda with them. They like their stereotypes. And years ago, I was watching the film Rush, which is a racing movie about, I don't know, 60s or 70s, James Hunt, who is a UK championship F1 driver. And it was about his relationship with Niki Lauda. Very much recommend it if you like that kind of thing. A brilliant movie. And it's one of those really gorgeous Australian brothers who was one of the actors. So also nice watch. Nice to watch. But more importantly, you see the process of a racing driver, and actually it's going to be that of any athlete, any high achiever, anyone who is scaling mountains, anyone who is going and breaking boundaries, who is going to do anything of innovation. First, they have to fail. So that's why we're saying today, and the title of this show is about failing quickly. How can you fail quickly to get great success? Now, these guys, so for instance, James Hunt, he failed massively. He was a big drinker, he was a big ladies' man. And then you had Niki Lauda. And Niki Lauda has more of the personality. So James Hunt was, as I said, the drinking ladies' man. He was very carefree, very serious about competing. Niki Lauda is very detailed, and he looked at the engine work, he looked at the analytics, he looked at the weights and the speed, and he was always examining and working with the team, working with Ferrari team when he started, about getting it lighter, getting the engine working, what was working, what wasn't, what was his speed, monitoring every single metric there was. And there is a lot to be learned. But when he went, now, supposedly, this is in the film, but it was a real life accident that happened leading up to, I don't know if this is the cause, but in the film they show it, that he goes against his greater intuition in terms of failing. And he has a big accident on the road. Now, that's the thing, is that it's a very real type of failure for a racing driver. And it is a very real kind of failure in terms of the actual tangible data and work that you do. But I want you to think about how you can take the lesson of a racing driver, test out what works, what doesn't. That's why they do the test laps. Actors have rehearsals Everyone has a mock exam. You have that ability to practice, to get it wrong first of all, fail quicker, get better at what you do. So if you're looking to be better at video, you need to be okay with failing. If you're looking at getting better on camera or speaking to people or presenting or communicating or having a difficult conversation, you need to be okay about failing. You need to be okay about falling flat on your face and getting up and on with it afterwards and going, great, these are the questions I'm going to ask. And that's what Niki Lauda did. When something didn't go right, when they didn't get the speed they wanted, they went, okay, immediately we're going back to it. Let's examine the engine. Let's have a meeting. Let's have a look at what went wrong. They were brilliant at taking that failure and turning it into something of value for a success. And that's what we do as performers and as speakers. So just realized I need to plug in my laptop. So there's a failure for me right there that I forgot to do today. I'm on form. There we go. I did that deliberately just to start. So I'm just going to check that my audio is okay. Can you still hear me? Fantastic. Okay, good. That's all good. Let me know if you can hear me, by the way, if you're listening. So there we have why failure is important. So as a public speaker, and I've been acting for many years, and I trained, not only did I do a diploma, but then went to and did my degree in theatrical performance. And I've worked on the West End and many shows working live. And believe me, you fail all the time. You have to get very, very, very comfortable with failing. Entrepreneurs fail all the time. Every great book out there about entrepreneurship and development is about failing. People who have great overnight successes never was an overnight success. It was always a lot of failure to get them there and on the way. So what are you holding back from right now? That's what I'd really like to ask you. What is your goal at the moment? What do you really want to achieve? And what is holding you back? What are you afraid of? What is the worst that can happen? Because just now I'm delivering a live in my group and my microphone fell off because I was trying to plug in the laptop. I forgot that could be classed as a big fail. But you got to roll with it. You got to go with it. You got to see what's comfortable with you, with what's not. Now I know I should have done my checklist for making sure everything was in place. I'd forgotten to plug in my laptop. So now I know, learning from the failure. In presenting and speaking and any type of communication, it has to be a very fluid process because you are in action in the moment. Actors spend ages in rehearsal process. In fact, all of the work is done outside almost of the actual performance. They prepare their role, they get into character. And that sounds a bit woo-woo sometimes, but it really is a very in-depth process. So you have to go through the notes. You've got to agree with the director what's happening, what the tone of the words are, how they're going to move as well. So you actually have to mix logistics with emotional intent as well. And this is what happens when you present. So when you present, using this as an example, when you're going into a conversation, you really need to be clear on what your intention is. You have to be really clear on what you're trying to achieve, what your goal is. And then you make sure you've got the skills to be able to roll with it. So you've got to be able to and open to failing and open to doing all of those things, if that makes sense. Before you go in and think about that relationship you have with failure, first of all, and that's very much a personal thing. What could you say to yourself to be okay with anything less than perfect? What could you say? What will make you feel okay about that prospect of failing right then and there? What is it? When we go on camera or video, it's great because if you just leave it, if you do it and leave it, then you won't pick it apart. If you're really interested in getting better and being great at being a speaker or presenter, then you do have to learn to be able to productively critique yourself. So instead of constructive criticism, I like to leave the word criticism out because it's almost too heavy a word. To productively critique yourself. So that means being able to view yourself with an eye of, okay, what are we going to improve here? Turn it into the positive. A lot of the time when I get clients watching themselves back on camera, it is super painful. And I get that. I used to hate watching myself on camera. In fact, I'd never do it. There are things even today I've never watched. Never, just did the job. And I went back and I've never heard. And I used to really hate hearing myself, hearing my own voice. So apologies to you guys who do listen to me in my own voice. I was like, it really used to really grate me. But since it's become an activity, I have to watch myself to make sure that I am appearing okay. I'm not being distracting, that I am there for the purpose, that you are getting the message, because it's not about me. It's about you. So I have to fail to be better, to be a better coach for you guys. And it's the same for you. If you fail quicker, so that might be something that will help you if it's your thought. If you focus on the value that you give and who needs to hear you. So I've had a client who came to me wanting to be more influential for their organization, big global organization who should be way ahead of the game and making data analytics. It was about data analytical changes. And without a strong voice to say why it matters and why it's important, that the entire company could be falling behind in the next 2 years. That's why it's important. It's important that people listen to what you've got to say. You have valuable things that people need to hear, because that's why you're a professional. That's why you do what you do. It's not just about the compiling of things, it's the insights you have and the realization of how you can take the businesses forward. That's what you're there for. So you need to fail and get out there and get comfortable with speaking so that you can be better next time. Just like every racing driver does. In fact, Lewis Hamilton does the same thing. I wrote a blog on it, I think in December 2020, about the processes he uses to be high performing. And I read that Lewis Hamilton actually, after a big win, so his seventh year championship, world record breaking, and he doesn't celebrate, not straight away. Apparently, immediately he goes back into the war room almost, gets all the engineers and says, right, how can we do it better next time? That's after he wins. So after you do something, have a look. In fact, I'm going to give you some coaching questions on what you can do better when you don't succeed. And by using these questions and having this process, you can think to yourself, this is useful. I want to fail. I want to fail so I'm going to be better. And that's actually the most successful people you can think of who are doing okay. And we can't help, can we, but compare ourselves to other people. Oh, but they're so good at this. It comes so natural to them. Do you know what? Sometimes it doesn't. And they've just worked really hard. They've just worked at it. They're just good at knowing what does work and what doesn't. Just the same way you are good at something. We're all good at something. We all have strengths. We all have our strengths. And if you feel that speaking on camera isn't yours, it is something that can be learned. And I have factual proof. There have been brain studies about it. But I want to give you something tangible now so that you can go away and practice these. And I'll write these down as well in a blog. So I'll put these in the show notes later. But if not, do check my website, just in case you haven't got it. It's speakingambition.com. Make sure you check that out for the blog, and I'll try and post it here, there, and everywhere. So if you're in the group, go to the group, the Facebook group, Limitless Accountants. If you're in on following me on LinkedIn, then find it there. I'll post it. I'll try and post it everywhere so you've got access to it. Okay, so questions to let you know how you can fail or examine your failure and feel really awesome about failing. Okay, first of all, establish what happened. What happened? Ask yourself, what happened? What just happened then? Have a really clear view. Make sure you're in a good mindset space of, hey, okay, what happened? This happened. That went well. That didn't. And try to make sure you're really fact-based with that. Don't go data. Okay? Don't just go, I feel. Because your feel is not a reality. It's a reality for you, and you do need to use your intuition, but focus on what did actually happen. What reactions did you actually get? So if you've got facial expressions that were furrowed, if people were suddenly on their phones and distracted, if they didn't quite give you the enthusiasm that you were hoping for, register the actual fact rather than what you're projecting onto it. Okay. What challenges did you have? Ask yourself what challenges you had in the session. So it might be a difficult conversation with a junior or a peer or a senior. And if you're going in to discuss, for instance, why a deliverable hasn't happened and what you can do better, the conversation didn't go as expected, and you're wanting to think, you left that meeting thinking that didn't go as well as I hoped. I don't really feel clear on where we're going here. Then I wonder how I can get them to do a better job of this. Now, so have a look. What challenges in that room were there? Now, this happened recently with actually a few clients, because I think stresses are at their highest at the moment. So this is happening a fair few things where people are just singing off different hymn sheets. Our empathy levels and EQ levels are being affected because we've almost been put off balance by things like a pandemic, the stress we feel of all the extra work, that kind of thing. And that can come out in a variety of different ways. And we can all seeps out in quite negative way. So you could say the challenges are, for instance, I was saying about the client that came the other day, is that there is simply a personality clash, and that happens so frequently. So if you have got a typical, if you are a high C in terms of your personality, you're very analytical, you're very task focused. Go on. Can you hear me? Hello. Yes, you can hear me. Okay. If you are someone who has a high C personality profile, you very likely clash with people who are Ds. Equally, you might clash with people who are Not so much I's, but definitely S's who are very compliant, very humble, very steady, because you might get frustrated with them. And you might also get frustrated at a D who is dominant, who is very abrupt, results driven. So that's a really good question for you is how have you dealt with those challenges? Because then you know what works for next time. Um, what development areas did you find when you failed? Think about the last time you failed or considered it a fail recently. Can you have a look at how that worked? Um, that's a really good one. So, what development areas did you find? What do you want to celebrate in yourself? I love this question. What do you want to celebrate in yourself? I think you always have to. You can be really critical and have a look at everything, or productive, I should say, productively critiquing, but make sure you also have that elements of praise because we need it for our positive psychology. Very basic, going, yeah, do you know what? This worked really well for me. I'm going to keep that in. And actually, if I keep that and get rid of the stuff that didn't work, that's going to be really good. Okay. What do you want to do next time? What do you want to do next time? Great question. Love this question. What are you going to do? I often leave that. I say that to my clients. I'm like, okay, I just let it hang there. What are you going to do? Just sit there with it and think, what am I going to do? Okay. And then you can go back. Okay, what challenges were there? What development areas did I find? And what gaps of knowledge do I have? And then you can go, right, I don't know what to do about that. And if you're sat there going, I don't know. Well, actually, that's telling you something. That's valuable information. It's telling you what you can do to be more successful because it tells you a gap or an area that you can go and pursue some knowledge that isn't just wasting time. It's going to be valuable for you. So go have a look at that. Failing quickly is extremely valuable for you. It's being comfortable with that in terms of how you approach communication, for sure, I can tell you is the only way that anyone gets better. It's like learning any skill. You have to fail. Riding your bike, you have to fail to get better. I started paddleboarding last year and I fell off. And that was because I lost my presence. I really liked paddleboarding. I love paddleboarding. In fact, I'm definitely going to do more of it this year because when you're on there, you have to be 100% focused. And I found that very much an experience like delivering a presentation or sitting in a meeting and being at my very best because I have to be 100% present. 100% in the game, making sure my brain isn't floating off to, oh, what are we going to have to dinner tonight? It's massively on point. And the same with paddleboarding, because I was there and you have to stand up and you have to really get your balance. And I basically dipped. My brain went to work. I went, oh, I really got to remind myself to message back so and so, and splash. That was it. I fell in the water and I was left trailing behind. I went, oh, okay. So that was definitely a failure. I went, right, now I know I have to keep my brain focused. I have to have that mindset where I'm keeping going. Otherwise, I absolutely lose my game. And actually very much the same as delivering this podcast. So I've had a few technical issues going on and it's thrown me off slightly. But being aware of that makes you a much better presenter. So the best speakers out there are prepared, though, to fail. So it's not just willing to go back and look over when you did fail. It's about that preparation to fail in the first place. It's about being willing to risk it. And that's what I really want you to take away from this episode. But I'm going to leave you guys just there. Have a great week. And remember, the quicker you fail when it comes to communication, the quicker you try things out, the more you risk, the more you're brave, the better you get, the more quickly you get. Better. Now, if you really want to have a look at where you're at in terms of making waves in finance and being I'm trialing this out, wave maker, being a wave maker. I like it. Then do check out my free assessment on impact. So go to my website, you can find it there, but also you can go direct to the link is Speaking Ambition. So no www, leave all the W's out, just speakingambition.scoreapp.com. So take that test, have a look, because it will measures you against waves, how you can make waves, which is being wide awake, how you make strategic allies in your relationships, what your values are you, how aware are you of your values really on a psychological level, how you express ideas and what your speaking skills are. So do you have a check about how you make waves? And otherwise, I'll see you next week. We've got some exciting guests coming up. We've got for the next 2 months, I've got some really great guests coming in. So do check it out, subscribe to the show, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.